A very good evening to you and welcome to the West Ham Voice, on the West Ham Weekly on a Monday night. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you all had a pleasant weekend. I guess it's a little bit more pleasant given that we didn't lose and everybody was expecting us to get trounced up at Newcastle. And it was a great day out, a great weekend out, actually. With Wiggy, Bob and Paul, who I travelled up there with, wonderful company. And I think we were a little bit worse for wear by the time the game started because Paul fell asleep for the first 5 minutes. And Wiggy was singing, "We've got Super David Moyes." But anyway, I'll get on to that later. Coming up, you know, the usual stuff about the game itself, a little bit of an analysis on that. I did a show earlier on in the day, so if you want to see a better analysis, do go and watch that after the show. Going to talk about Declan Rice, of course, and going to talk about other player news, some injury news. It looks like we're stacking up with the injuries, and a little bit of update on loan players as well. But let's start off with the £120 million man, shall we? I mean, I did say this last week or the week before, I can't remember. I think I said it several times. Not a day goes by, doesn't matter whether there's a transfer window open or not, not a day goes by that we hear a story, a transfer story about Declan Rice, who he's going to play for, how much he's worth, you know, etc., etc. It just never stops, really. And it hasn't really stopped for the past, 3 years or so? Almost every day. And it feels as if, like, people can't wait. You know, the press can't wait for Declan Rice to leave West Ham United. I guess they'll get their wish in the summertime because it was revealed on TalkSport earlier today that apparently Man United bid something like £100 million for the player and West Ham United turned it down. What part of no do people not get? It was made clear that West Ham were not going to sell Declan Rice in this season. But it's obvious, isn't it? The worst kept secret in the world, that it's very, very possible that he will go this coming summer. And I guess what West Ham United are going to do is create a bidding war for him. David Moyes has already spoken about, he spoke about his value. He said he'll be, you know, if he goes or when he goes, he'll be the biggest record transfer fee in the country, etc. And I guess given that Enzo Fernandez only recently went to Chelsea for £105 million, you get a marker of what we're going to ask for him. And if any team is going to want to pay it, they'll pay it. And there's talk that he's going to be valued at something like £120 million plus add-ons. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of add-ons West Ham United are going to insist on as well. Look, I'll be really honest with you. I'm kind of sick and tired of it. We know he's going to go. You know, I mean, the likelihood of him staying, I mean, a tiny bit of me thinks that he might turn around and say, look, I'll stay until my contract ends. And only because at the end of the following season, he'll be able to walk away and have a big signing on fee with whoever he wants to go to. Basically demand his own value, you know, how much he wants to sign on for, you know, his wages, etc., etc. I guess for him, you know, it might be worth him hanging on, but I'm not wishful thinking. It's not like I think he will stay. But if he does go, West Ham United are going to demand a big fee for him. But it's a distraction, especially with the season that we're having at the moment. I think it's a massive distraction and one that I don't think any of us really want. And we kind of, you know, it almost falls on deaf ears nowadays because we hear it and hear it and hear it. And I guess a lot of fans have become quite immune to it. And I'm kind of fed up. You know, if he goes, we wish him well. If he doesn't go, then fine. I'm all right with that. I know West Ham will probably want a fee for him, but if he stays, then it's another season of building around him, especially with other players that we've got who are finally sort of coming to the fore. And what can we do next season? Right. If we get relegated, of course his value is going to go down. But I still think West Ham are going to demand a sizable fee for him. Will they be able to demand 120, 130 million? Probably not. But I still think they'll get a sizable fee for him if we go down. But it's boring, really. Man United, like I said, apparently have made a bid for him. They got turned down. Of course, he's been asking everyone what it's like to be at Arsenal. Do you honestly really believe that to be fact? I genuinely don't. You know, certainly Arsenal might be of interest to him, but he's a Chelsea boy. Would he really go to Arsenal over Chelsea? I guess it might be if Chelsea are in the Champions League and they're not doing so well, but he can see from the side, from the side, what Chelsea are trying to do. They're spending money like there's no tomorrow. There's another Man City coming up very soon. Must happen, eh? So I don't know. I just wish the press would shut up about it, to be quite honest with you. And I just wished we were allowed to just focus on our season without having this constant distraction. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse as the season progresses. And if we continue to languish down the bottom of the league, it will be like the final few months of of this season will be like, where will Declan be playing? When he leaves relegation threatened West Ham, and it's boring. Anyway, that's the Declan Rice story. I'm sure you've all read about it and heard about it already. Do we care where he goes? Frankly, if we get the money for him, in a way, I almost don't care. What if he goes to Arsenal, Chelsea, or whatever? But I still think quite possibly, and I might be wrong, quite possibly, there might be a team or two abroad that might want to look over and think whether they want to have him at their club. And why not? Look, anyway, it's boring, but we won't hear the last of it. Transfer window shut last week, but that doesn't matter, does it? Because the stories continue to be out there. I haven't said good evening to you all, so I'm going to go into the chat and say hello to you all and see how you all are. Let's go into the comments here. I'm just going to scroll all the way up to the top and see who's there. Good evening to you, Howard. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening, mate. Nice of you to join. Good evening, Steve. How are you, mate? Thank you for all the emails. I have taken notes and my pleasure for replying as well. Good evening, James. I hope you're well, mate. Galispera, Keith. How are you, mate? I hope you're well too. Good evening, Mr. Pepper. How are you? Good evening, all. How are you all? There's a few signs that West Ham monster is stirring and about to unleash itself on the Premier League. I kind of do agree. We are still in a desperate situation. We know that. But kind of like, finally it seems it's taken us 6 bloody months. It's taken us half the season to start gelling, but we're not doing too badly. And given that we were given no chance against Newcastle, we played a really good game on Saturday. I'll get to that in a moment. I'll go through your comments first. Good evening to you, Steve, again. I disagree with Moyes' subs on Saturday, taking off Benny and Lucas. We went too defensive and played for the point. Worth a bit more attacking. We could have won that. It's possible. I get both sides. Do we walk away with a point or do we risk losing a point? Look, they had a couple of chances at the end. Callum Wilson, if he could head better, he would have scored. And also the fantastic block from Naifa Gerd as well. 15 minutes from the end, 10 minutes from the end. They were getting chances. I could see Moyes' thinking of like, hang on a minute, maybe I need to protect what I've got. I got that. I think in some other games, you're absolutely right, Steve. Maybe there were times that we shouldn't have been so defensive. But for this one, I'm happy with a point. Good evening to you. Oh, dear, the lights went off. I forgot to recharge them. There you go. Good evening to you, Sean. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening, Graham. I hope you're well. From an unusually dry, it's dry here, but effing cold, mate. Effing cold. No, I actually did make dinner tonight, mate. That's why I was a little bit late. If I gulped it down any quicker, I would have been thrown up. Howard, I think I've got time to put the... You always do. Good evening to you, Peter. Guten Tag. I hope you're well, mate. Daniela, how are you? Man United not put 100 million bid. It's pepper talk. They have to sell before they can buy. Who knows if it's true? I do tell you, I do sort of say quite often, a lot of the transfer stories, a lot of stuff is pretty much guff. We don't know. Sorry, it's gone dark on one side. I'm not on this side. The light went off. A lot of it is guff, so who knows? Good evening, Black Country. I hope you're well, mate. Mr. Barrett, I hope you're well too. Good evening to the Moisaris. Hopefully we avoid relegation, but that mean going down a Moisaris? It will. It probably, I said it the other day. I'm pretty certain that Moyes, well, I'm not certain. Moyes has said that this light's going to go off any minute now as well, and I'm going to be totally in the dark. Moyes has more or less admitted that we're going to go sort of like back to what he knows. So I'm afraid we're going to have to lump it. Peter, bids would start low around 50 mil and build up if we stay up. Yeah, if anyone's stupid enough to bid 50 mil, good luck to that. But I get what you're saying. Patrick, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Mr. Watson, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well as well. Andy, cracking open a cold one to enjoy the show. Good for you. I had too much to drink and I'm only drinking pomegranate juice. Yeah, I'm getting a bit healthy in my old age. Good evening, Mr. Shinegold. How are you, Andrew? I hope you're well, mate. Danny, how are you, mate? Hope you're all. I'm very well. I hope you are too. Still reckon Moyes is on thin ice. Well, he could well be. He could well be. I would prefer to see him gone for someone better sooner rather than later. I think we're stuck with him until the end of the season, to be quite honest with you. It looks that way. But I know what's happened with Leeds earlier today, and I know what's happened with Everton, etc., etc. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. Mandy, good evening to you. Manu inquired last year, Daniela, and was prepared to pay 100 mil. Leeds have sacked. Yeah, they have. Yank Lampard. I called him Ted Lasso. Poor bloke. Shouldn't have done. James, it was only Everton at home. It was only Derby away. It was only Newcastle away. Rest to follow. It's my thinking too. Look. We're not in any way, shape or form, out of the woods yet, without a shadow of a doubt. But you can only beat who you have in front of you, or you can only play who you have in front of you. Beating Everton, beating Derby, getting a point at Newcastle, that builds up the confidence. Good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hammerwell, how are you? Breaking news, Pep has held talks with Sullivan and he could agree to... Do you know what? Man City, I mean, they're not the only ones though, are they? I mean, how's everyone at Chelsea hiding it by giving players 8-year contracts on all this rubbish? Man City are not the only team. And we knew this. They got away with it, didn't they, a few seasons ago? Was it from UEFA, fair play rules and all that? They got away with it. They ain't getting away with it again, are they? 100 charges. 100. Only 100. Peter, women held on against Arsenal. First point ever against them. Come on, do my show. Let's do player rate. All right, I'll tell you what, we will. When I get to talking about the game, I'll ask you guys what you think of the players and you give me their ratings. Good evening, V9. I hope should he get relegated for financial unfair play, that could be a factor. Good result against Newcastle, but it doesn't exonerate Moyes. I agree. Not disagreeing. We're still in the thick of it. Good evening, Adam. I hope you're well, mate. Martin. To Sean, haven't seen you in the chat. Yeah, Sean, I hope you're well, and good to see you in the chat. Good evening, Neil. I hope you're well, mate. So 7:35 a.m. on a Tuesday. I love the. I tell you what, you need to do is give us the time and the day and the weather, because we'll all get pissed off because it's probably never cold down there, is it? Who else we got? Peter Cornet lost in France. I feel sorry for that. Well, I'm going to talk about injuries and our injury build up as well. Steve, if City are found guilty of the charges, they should be fined and relegated to the Championship. Relegate them down to the bottom. Juventus, I can't remember what Juventus did a few years back, and they got relegated something like to the 3rd or 4th tier of the of Italian football, something like that. Do that to them. Mind you, it won't take them long to get back up again, will it? Sharky, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. To Moisaris, would be funny on some level, scam City, but Declan, then they get relegated for now. Buying him, and then Declan saying, I want to play Champions League. Instead, he'll be playing Championship. Well, we know damn well now he ain't going to Man City. You can almost certainly guarantee that he's out of the equation. They sold Cancelo pretty quickly, didn't they? They had no choice. You can virtually guarantee that Declan Rice won't be going to Man City. So you've got Liverpool left, Arsenal left, Chelsea left. Who else? Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man U. So instead of 6, there's 5 now. I'm not including Spurs. How dare I? Neil. Hi, Trout swinging well. Yeah, they're all saying hello to each other. Let's scroll down a bit more. Good evening to you, Lawrence. How are you, mate? Rice to be on the front of next FIFA game cover after he leaves. Yeah, of course. He ain't gonna put him in a West Ham shirt, are they? They'll put him in a shirt of the team. He go, oh, fucking hate the way they treat us. Anyway, Debbie and Mark, how are you? Big revamp will be needed in the summer with players out of contract and Rice leaving. I would also like to add, so I think around 70 or 80 mil, and a player would be a good deal for Rice. I disagree. I agree with everything else. I think I mentioned that last week or the week before about how many players are going out of contract. That's absolutely right. If we don't renew any of their contracts, and I would ask why we would want to, with the greatest of respect to them, because they're all sort of getting quite a bit older. But if we don't renew any of the current players' contracts who run out, their contracts run out at the end of this season, then that's 5 players we've got to find straight away. Then you're looking at Antonio, who was edging for a move in the January transfer window. And then you're looking at Declan Rice. That's 7. We brought in 8 last season. We'll bring in 7. Oh, that's poor. Anyway, Tony, well, you know, I did say if we'd actually bought players last January and in this January window, 1 or 2, I know we got Ings, but he don't count. If we bought in a couple of players, younger players, in those windows, it would have made life easier to actually bring fewer players in the summer transfer window. But now we're going to be stuck with having to bring in at least 7 new players, unless there's 1 or 2 players coming through the academy and given a proper chance. Good evening, Tony. I don't think I think they are. I mean, I really want to see how they're going to get out of this one. I really do. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to wangle it. I bet you they'll find a way of wangling it. No, I know we're not, but I'm trying to appease the masses, mate, because a lot of people still think we will go down under Moyes. So, you know, I'm trying to be balanced, Patrick. Daniela, I think we need to call Rice out about the Arsenal connect. I think it's a load of rubbish, to be honest. I genuinely do. Asking what it's like to be at Arsenal, no, it doesn't really wash, to be honest with you. Unless someone comes out and says quite specifically, Declan spoke to me about, I don't think it, no, it's all rumour, isn't it? John, good evening to you. No way the board would let him run his contract down. You know what, John? I don't really know. I mean, I guess, you know, we think we, you know, like to get money for him and get a big sum of money for him. I don't know, you know, because I just wonder what we could do with another year of Declan Rice, Paqueta, Agard, etc. Players who are really now beginning to sort of come to life. I just wonder what we can do if we kept Declan Rice, you know. But yeah, I get you. You know, a lot of money. They did say, you know, if a lot of money comes in, then they're not likely to turn it down. But let's see what happens. Vinay, Rice will join Arsenal for his career. Even joined the Man United. I don't know why, but I'm not convinced on the Arsenal bid. I'm not convinced that Arsenal will be able to afford what we want him to go for, to be honest with you. I think out of all the teams, you know, you look at maybe Liverpool and you look at Man United and you would have looked at City and you would have said to yourself, yeah, they'll pay that money. I don't know if Arsenal will pay much more than, say, 80 million for him. 80 million plus 3 players? Which 3 would we have, though? Not the 3 oldest ones. Steve, breaking news. Rice has agreed to join Dagenham and Redbridge. Sean, you should have a self-employed ban on all Declan clickbait bollocks. See, this is it, Sean. This is the problem, you know, because a lot of it is, I do try. What I try and do is I actually most of the time just ignore it, you know, and I go through and I just do the rest of the show, etc. But this keeps coming up, and I bet you a pound to a penny it'll come up again next week, and again next week, and again the week after, until this season ends. Mark, if we sell Deck in summer, we need to do it early to give us time to bring new players that we need. Absolutely agree on that. Yep. Black Country, he might stay if we get new owners. I think he's going then. Tony, Rice definitely won't be going to City, that's for sure. That is for sure. Graham, I don't know. Unless they sell half their squad and buy Declan instead. We might get... what do you call him? We might get 1 or 2 of their players on the cheap, hey? Anyway, Graham, this whole Deck thing is boring as me again, as boring as me and the Ginger Prince. Yeah, I'm bored. My other half talks about the bloody war. Oh, look what's going on. Who cares? Victor, Rice will go to the highest bidder. Exactly. That's what I think. And I just wonder, I seriously do wonder if we don't get a bidder high enough. That's the other light gone. I'm sorry, people. I'm in the dark. If we don't get a bid high enough, what will West Ham do? It'd be interesting. Good evening, Jonathan. How are you? When I see the stories about Rice, I don't read it. We all know what's inside, what it is. Absolutely. Howard. All them twats on Sky Sports keep the Rice story going. See you next Tuesdays. Yeah, they do keep the Rice going because they've got nothing else to talk about. So there you go. Adam, for Rice, it's not what... For Rice, it's not what team he goes to. It's the team he can win the most trophies at. Which is why I keep wondering to myself, if he doesn't stay in England, will he go to a team like BOWEN? Will he go to a team like Real Madrid? I don't believe for a minute that they don't have an interest in him. I reckon they must be looking over their shoulders and going, should we? Shall we? Juventus, maybe even, a team that's got a proper history in Champions League, etc. I don't know. Juventus won it. I'm sure they have. Yeah, they have won it. So that's why I keep an open mind about the fact that he might actually go abroad. Let's say, for argument's sake, he goes to, I don't know, Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or whatever. And let's say he spends 3 years there. He'd still be 27 when he's done there, and he'd still be able to come back and play for his beloved Chelsea or his now beloved Arsenal. Good evening, Matt. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Good evening to you, Beazle. Top of the evening, Havers. Good evening to you, mate. Thank you for joining as well. Good evening, Paul. I hope you're well, mate. It's Bezel, sorry. Agerd is a top geezer and is going to get even better. Absolutely. And when Declan goes, who should be captain of the team? Surely Agerd would be made captain of the team. He's absolutely superb. Adam, didn't think it was Benny's best game. Could see why he was taken off. Yeah, but even Bowen was kept a little bit quiet. They did a job. They did a number on our attacking players, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, I think they were all quiet. Tony, Benny was crap. I would not be surprised if he's dropped for the Chelsea game. I hope not, because you can have a bad game and still come back storming. How many bad games has Bowen had in a row? And finally, he started to click a little bit. Good evening, Scarborough. How are you, mate? Paqueta was knackered and Benny was ineffective. Subs were needed. Agree on that. Absolutely. Paqueta played well, didn't he? Stuart. Evening, Stout. I hope you're well, mate. The point was a good one. Are Man City going to be kicked out of the Premier League? They should be kicked out of English football. Let them go and play in the, I don't know, the amateur Southern League or whatever they might be. Imagine that. Imagine if they just everyone just said, "Oh, go on, off you go. You're never coming back into the Premier League." Kevin, good evening to you, mate. Cornet, Akaboni, Tyler lost in France. We've done that one. Good evening, Henry. I hope you're well, mate. Sharky, was that ex-employee you had sitting next to you at Newcastle? No, it wasn't. It was a guy with a bright shirt. That's my friend Wiggy. Wiggy wears the brightest shirts. If you've watched the very, very brief drunken 1 minute review I did on Saturday night, we were in the hotel room and Wiggy was lying there snoring. He wears the brightest of shirts for away games. You can't miss him. No, it wasn't X. No. Daniela. Rice has to be careful. Half the Man U fan base think he is overhyped and not as good as Fred. Fucking how stupid are they, eh? James, keep off the grass. Sign to your right is no longer lit. Creep off the grass sign to your right is no longer lit. Oh well, when in Rome. I didn't understand any of that, but I'm sure there's a logic to it. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Peter. Beat Chelsea and Spurs, then lose to Forest as the West. I did say that. I actually said that that's exactly what will probably happen. Good evening to you, Clive. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining, mate. I hope you're well. Martin, City have expensive lawyers. They sure do. They'll weasel their way out of this with a fine and a slap on the wrist. You know what? That'll happen, won't it? That really will happen. Sean, Man City appealed to CAS and had UEFA punishments reduced. That route will not be available if found guilty this time. I hope not. I think, and next up, it's got to be Chelsea, isn't it? With the greatest of respect to them. No fucking respect, actually. It's got to be Chelsea, hasn't it? And then they've got to start looking at other teams, the way they hide, sort of their finances to make out that they're all great and sufficient. Sharky, Serie B, Juventus were relegated to. I thought it was lower. I'm sure they went at several levels lower, mate. I could be wrong, though. And that was for match fixing. Yes, it was indeed. Anyway. Daniela, Rangers went to the bottom of the Scottish. They went to the bottom of the Scottish leagues as well. So, it can happen. Imagine that. Imagine Man City playing Accrington Stanley on a rainy Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock. I wonder how much their multi-million-pound stars will relish in that. Good evening, Schmiegel. I hope you're well. No, you've missed nothing. I've been moaning about Declan Rice stories, mate. Oh, what's happened there? And bear with me 1 second. My screen's gone off as well, which is not a good sign at all. I'm back. Right. Roberts, good evening to you. Strip Man City of all titles? They might well be. They've been caught cheating. They lose their medals in athletics when they're caught cheating drugs. Yeah, so it's not too dissimilar, is it? I wonder, because it goes back a few years, doesn't it? It's going to be very interesting. Andrew, Perugia got relegated from Serie A in 2009 to the third tier of Italian football and have never got back. So I think it could happen. It won't be just down to the championship. It could be a lot lower. Absolutely. I hope it is. Good evening, NWO. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Tony, exactly what I thought, Daniela. They should start from the bottom and work their way up. Vinay, buy 7 new players. Is Moyes the man to manage? Now, don't get me wrong, Vinay. I'm not suggesting for a minute that it would be Moyes doing it. But what I'm saying is, whoever is in charge is going to have this issue. They're going to have the issue of this Soufal, Lanzini, Ogbonna, various others that are going to be out of contract at the end of this season. And if they don't have their contracts renewed, whoever it is, whether it be Moyes or whoever, is going to have the job of another rebuild. Oh God, that's why it's not so much just get any player in the January window, but get players in to cushion that blow. If we'd have done it last January, we wouldn't have had to have 8 players in this summer or summer just gone. And if we we got Ings in, but like I said, it don't count only because Ings is 30 years of age. He's not going to give you another 3 or 4 seasons. If we'd have got another 1 or 2 players in this January transfer window, it would have eased the pain a little bit, and only having only need 4 or 5 players rather than needing the 7. Use Lanzini, still our best player. Well, it's interesting because I'm going to talk about that as well, because if you think of people are shouting out for Flynn Downs to play, who had a great game against Derby. People are talking about Lanzini to play, etc., etc. Who at the moment, and an actually genuine question I'd like to know from you guys, if we bring Downs in, if we put Downs in the starting lineup and we put Lanzini in the starting lineup, who would you drop from the lineup that we had at the weekend? It's an interesting one because I'd be hard pushed to know who I'd drop for those 2 players, and they're good players. Owen, good evening to you. To be fair, we really can't predict what our board will do. Well, we know they spent, but unfortunately, they always used to spend really badly. A scattergun approach. But if you're talking about them leaving, I think the Gold family have more or less said that they're hanging on for another couple of years to the shares and then see what happens. And I think Sullivan will follow suit. And I know everybody thinks that the board will sell up at the end of this March because of the thing about the stadium and the contract with it. I don't think they will. I've been saying this for quite some time. I might be wrong. A bit like the Declan thing. If enough money comes in, they might turn around and go, well, stuff it, let's go. But it'll have to be one hell of a lot of money. They value the club at 800 million. Will they get that sort of money for West Ham United without a ground? I'm not really sure. But I guess if enough money comes in, they might consider it. But I think they're here for another couple of seasons. Let's scroll down. Martin, I agree with you still. I don't think Arsenal could afford to. This is it. I don't think Arsenal can afford to buy Declan Rice, to be honest with you. Bezel, Deck will go where the big bucks are and he can shine brightest. Yeah, absolutely. Vinay, Arsenal spent 90 million on Pepe. Who is Pepe? Let's see if they want to spend 120 million on Declan Rice. Good evening, Darren. Missed on Saturday, mate. Are you not doing any away games anymore, or are you just taking a small break? I hope you're well. Mr. Dodsey, thank you for all the videos you send. Sorry I put them up so late. It's really annoying. I know that, but I really appreciate. Or if any of you, after the show, go into my back channel, my back catalogue of videos and have a look at Dodsey's videos. Talks about the game, about going there, the atmosphere, etc., etc. Gives us a bit of a rundown before the game, a bit of a rundown afterwards. Well worth watching. Who else we got here? 10 men. Good evening to you. 10 men and the back, no one in attack. Agree. Players from Arsenal. One would definitely be Jack Wilshere. We had that one, didn't we? That came running at us. Matt, Downs is my Rice replacement, or I'll go get Gallagher. Yeah, Gallagher I'd like. I don't know what Chelsea are doing with him. They're not using him. There you go. Another fine player who's not getting a lot of game time. Calvin Phillips will be cheap. This is what I think. Players like Calvin Phillips, we know Moyes likes him. And it could be that we could get him for a snip. They're putting a cheeky bid of 15 mil and see how they feel about it. Howard, that's what I think. Real Madrid might be a team that might be after him. Vinay, could Aguerd play in Declan's position? He'll be good at it, but I reckon, I daren't say it because you'll pop a blood vessel, Vinay. But I think KEHRER could play in Declan's position. But then why have him? Because we've got Flynn Downs, we've got other players that can play in that position. If Lanzini stays, he can play in that position. Paqueta, we've seen he's better when he plays deeper, etc. Good, could do, but my word, he's brilliant at the back, isn't he? Ray, good evening to you. Hills have omitted Man City from the relegation betting. They're just quoting the other 19 clubs. Yeah, they should put them back on. De Bruyne will be cheap. Yeah, they'd all be bloody cheap, wouldn't they? Matt, don't think Rice will go abroad due to being a young Dan and his young family is settled in West London. He would rather go up north to Liverpool or United than leave the UK, in my opinion. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Aaron, good evening to you, mate. Question, can Ings play in Europe for us? Yeah, you can. He can play in Europe because he's not cup tied in any way in European competitions. He just can't play for us in the cup, in the FA Cup. But yes, he can definitely play in Europe for us. Richard Dodsey, sorry, Rice to Liverpool with Bellingham, 250 mil a pair. You heard it here first. Do you know what, Dodsey? Of all the clubs, well, not of all the clubs, because I also said Arsenal. I don't think he'll go to Liverpool either, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Tony, still, do you not think Sullivan will sell? But Hammers chat think the board already know who they're buying the club and the next manager coming in. I don't know how they would know, with the greatest of respect to them. They're great chaps over there, but I don't know how any of us would know. I do keep asking. I keep being told Sullivan has absolutely no interest in selling at this moment in time. I think they're here. Again, I could be wrong because I'm not in the know. But I think they're here probably for another couple of seasons, to be quite honest with you. Victor, Rice could go to Chelsea because there's all this talk. I'll go back to that actually for a minute. There's all this talk about the Qataris buying up. I don't know which ones. I don't know which consortium they are. But there's all this talk about Qataris buying up all the land around the stadium. And there's speculation that because of that, they'll end up buying the stadium and then they'll end up buying West Ham. Will that happen? It's a possibility. But apparently they are acquiring quite a lot of land around the the sort of around the stadium itself. So I guess maybe that's where the speculation is coming from. I don't know if that's true, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if they'll go. So they're acquiring land. They're acquiring, it's real estate for them, and it quite lucrative real estate. Will they want to buy the stadium and then buy West Ham United on top of that? Maybe, but I'm not so sure. Patrick, maybe a Gerd will be captain, but don't call me Shirley. We won't then. I think a Gerd could be a good captain. I really do. Victor, Rice could go to Chelsea in the summer. They have so many players they will need to offload in the summer. They could offer 3 or 4 players in the deal. It would be interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if they did come in for him and if Rice wants to go. Rice wants to win the Champions League and wants to play in the Champions League. Chelsea are not going to be in the Champions League next season unless they decide, unless other teams get kicked out of the league as well on top of Man City. But no, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Benny, mass delusion continues. No, I disagree. I think he's done well for us. There are games that he hasn't done well, but I think there are games that he has done well for us. Any news on Cornet? Going to come to that in a moment, Matt. I'll tell you what, why don't I just go, and good evening to you, Hammerhead, and good evening to you, usual suspect. I hope you're both well. If Man City get the elbow, that will mean only 2 go down with them. I don't know. That's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out. Right. Why don't we go on to, ironically, the first part of the show? Now, I bet you're all wondering why I put those videos on. It's because I need a drink. You know, when I do a show and I rant for nearly 2 hours, I need to have a little bit of a break. So my apologies. But anyway, let's go on to the games. Let's start off with the Women's League, as someone mentioned it already. West Ham Women's secured their first ever Super League points or point against Arsenal as they drew 0-0 at the Construction Stadium in Dagenham at the weekend. We had to weather quite a lot of Arsenal attacking storm, but we played well in the second half. We kept them at bay. We could have got maybe more 3 points instead. But it was a good performance from our West Ham women's team. We're getting better. 3,000 fans turned up at Dagenham to support them, and that broke a record, I believe, for the women's team for number of fans turning up. So well done to them. Their next game is going to be in the semi-final of the Women's Continental Tires League. Well done to them. They're in the semi-final of that competition, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. Look, if you want to go and support them, it's on Thursday, the 9th of February at 7:15, £8 to go and watch some football. So good luck to them. I hope they do reach the final. I think that's fantastic. The under-21s were in action last week. They played Monaco. They got in the Premier League International Cup. They played a few teams around Europe, and they were in action against Monaco. It was a hard-fought match, but unfortunately, they got beaten 2-1 by Monaco. This would have they were already out of the competition to go through to the knockout stages, and they knew that, so they were playing with for pride more than anything else. Got out of the blocks pretty quickly. We scored our first goal pretty early in the game, but we fell to 2 other goals. Now, it also marks the return. Have I got a photo of him or not? Probably not. No, I haven't. It also marks the return after quite a while of Jamal Baptiste. Now, if any of you have sort of watched my shows from a long time back, you'd remember I'd always talked about Ajibola Olise and Jamal Baptiste as 2 very good up-and-coming centre-backs. As we know, Olise, unfortunately, I think much to my disgust, I don't know about you lot, he's now been sold to Sunderland, sold in the summer. And Jamal Baptiste disappeared from the planet. It's like, he weren't playing anywhere. He wasn't playing in the under-21s, wasn't playing for the under-18s. But it was a return for him in the competition because he had actually suffered quite a long-term injury. Only 19 years of age. And he said, it's been a really difficult period for me, probably the toughest of my career. Love playing football. It's been incredibly tough to watch from the sidelines, been disappointing. So I actually thought that he was out of favour. And I was suggesting that I sort of, maybe Baptiste is just not going to make it, but it's absolutely fantastic to hear that he's back. And I'll tell you what, and I know what happens every time I big up a young player, they end up being sold or never being used, etc. So I'm really wary of bigging up Jamal Baptiste, but I'm going to do it because he's a fantastic young centre-back, as good as, if not better than, Ajibola Olise. And so I really wish him well, and I really hope we see more of him. The next fixture for the under-21s is the Premier League 2 action again, with a home fixture on the 10th against Fulham. Next up, now, after losing a game the other week, the under-18s are back in it yet again. Kevin Keane's side, he praised on the togetherness of the under-18s and their attacking quality after they smashed Stoke City away in the FA Youth Cup 5th round, 4-1. I mean, my God, they score goals for fun. Lewis Orford in the photo was first to score. Divine Mbama, who just cannot stop scoring. Doesn't matter where he plays for the under-18s or the under-21s. And eventually when he plays for the senior team, got a brace as well. And then George Earthy finished it off with a 4th goal. That puts them through to the quarterfinals of the competition. The first time since 2004-2005 season. And Keane was very well, of course he was. So it was fantastic and well done to them. They are really rocking, and it's really quite interesting. A lot of people complained about some of the under-21s that we let go, Longello and a few other players, etc. But you see the under-18s are coming through quite quickly. Some of them have already progressed to the under-21s, and it looks like there's a couple of other players that will probably progress as well to the under-21s, like Skulls, for example, Orford, like I said, Earthy is another one, Callum Marshall. There's quite a number of them that would look like progressing to the under-21s and really pushing. So well done to them. Really, really fantastic results. Right. Well, is West Ham United back? Is the resilience back? Look, I was at the game on Saturday. The first 2 minutes were an absolute fucking nightmare. I couldn't believe what was going on. Not only did they score in the 34th second or something like that, we just went, you know what, have another go. That one was disallowed, so just go ahead and have another go. But you know what? The West Ham United of old of the last couple of seasons will come back storming. And it didn't matter if we went a goal down. We kept our heads, etc., etc. So far this season, we go a goal down. We seem to not know what to do. On Saturday, we looked like the West Ham of old in a way, the West Ham of the past couple of seasons, where we just controlled, composed ourselves, got back into the game, got a goal back, etc. And from that moment on, I don't think we really looked in trouble. And we looked resilient. We looked like we were a team together again. And it was really, really good to see. And it was an enjoyable game. I know a lot of people said, I know we talked about it a few moments ago about going a little bit more defensive, etc. But I didn't mind that. Because, coming away from Newcastle, given that they're doing so well this season, isn't it amazing? It's a bit of a role reversal. We were talking to some of the fans before the game in the Strawberry Pub, which is right by the stadium, which is a home pub. And we were chatting to them and they were sort of asking us, well, what's happened to your team? Last season it was us and this season it's you. And it is a complete role reversal. This is where we were this time last season, there or thereabouts, where Newcastle are now. And I hope they're enjoying it because you never know what will happen in football. Mind you, they've got a lot of money behind them. But in fairness, Eddie Howe hasn't gone splashing the cash, has he? He's bought players wisely, I guess. Look, we picked ourselves up. We did what we had to do. We got back into the game. It's something that's been lacking for most of the season. Is this a turnaround after the last few games, after Everton, Derby, the 2-2 draw away against Leeds, etc.? We're grinding out results. Okay, I know. Drawing is games is not gonna. It's gonna help, but it's not what we need. We need wins, and I know that. And it's going to be interesting to see how we fare against Chelsea at the weekend. But a lot of people have been saying, after the Derby game, the next 3 games are crucial. Let's see how we are against Newcastle. Let's see how we are against Chelsea, and let's see how we are against Spurs. And as someone said earlier, knowing us, we'll get results from Chelsea and Spurs, and then we'll go and lose to Forest at home. But I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a testament to the team, their spirit, the way we played. We only had, and I know this is another bugbear of a lot of fans, that we only had 38% possession, but it's what you do with that possession that counts, to be quite honest with you. We kept Newcastle at bay. I don't think they had that many shots on target, maybe 2, maybe something like that. And I think we did well. I think it was a really good game, and I'm really pleased. And of course, their goal. And now a lot of people blame Thilo KEHRER, for leaving a gap for Callum Marshall to run into. Unfortunately, if you have another good look at it, it wasn't really KEHRER's at blame. It was more with the greatest of respect to him, because I love Ogbonna. It was Ogbonna being slightly out of position, slightly too far forward, which allowed the ball to be played through. KEHRER went off at halftime, but he went off not because of tactical change, but because he's picked up an injury, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Lucas Paqueta, or Paqueta, or however you want to pronounce his name. He's beginning to deliver, isn't he? I mean, all right, he's only scored 2 goals. I know one of them was a penalty, but boy, oh boy, is he beginning to flourish in the middle of the park alongside Declan. Have you noticed? Declan now sits a little bit further back to allow Paqueta to do his tricks and etc., etc. But with all the tricks that he's got as a Brazilian player, he gets stuck in there as well. He's not afraid of putting his foot in and winning the ball back. And I think, we can only start seeing better and better from a player like him. And I was really pleased for him. I thought it was superb. And now we know why David Moyes has been chasing Nigel Gerd for the past 2 seasons. An absolute Rolls Royce of a differ. What an absolute fantastic player he's turning out to be. And I asked this question before. I wonder how many more points we may have had on the board if Gerd had been fit for the whole season. He's got a great command of the defence. He's got great communication ability, communicates with authority, great organisational skills, fantastic athleticism, and his passing ability is also superb. If you remember, we always marvel at the way Bobby Moore tackled Pele in the 1970 World Cup, for those of you who can remember that far back. And yet, this sort of tackle is absolutely superb, perfectly timed. Don't get me wrong, Callum Marshall is no Pele, and I'm not suggesting that Gerd is a Bobby Moore yet. But let's see how much better this player can get. Future captain, I would say why not? He's at 26 years of age. He's got at least another 4, 5, 6 years of top flight football left in him. Why not? Indeed. Right, let's go. I'll tell you what. Let's go to your chat, and then I'll go to the next part of the show. Jonathan, nothing will happen at City. The perm is owned by all the clubs owning a voting share. The Premier League, sorry, is so would need all the clubs to vote and kick them out. Would they? I don't know. I think this is a real breach of what they've done. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens with them. Matt, head-to-head with Chelsea, played 53, won 15, drawn 9, lost 29. I'm going to go with a cheeky 2-1 win. Got a good feeling about the match. So have I. We beat him last season with that absolutely wonderful Masuaku deliberate goal. Moisaris, Areola really injured, or is he on strike? No, I don't. Look, I really don't understand. With the greatest of respect, mate, I really don't understand why anyone would go on strike. He picked up an injury before the match, and it's unfortunate. So he's out. We've got quite a few players that are potentially going to be out this weekend. Aaron, they won't get chucked out of the league. They bring too much money in TV deals. I don't know, with Newcastle now, in the money, they'll just replace them, won't they? Graham, Benny needs to improve his final ball, as he could have passed to a couple of other attackers, but chose to shoot weakly. Yeah, agree with that. He's done that a couple of times before. Good evening to you, GP. I hope you're well. Looking younger than all the other. I don't feel it after the weekend I've had. It's pretty wild. Matt, Paqueta gives me Tevez vibes. He could be crucial in this part of the season. I like that. Yeah, and I agree with that as well. Owen, I think it's likely Moyes will be here until the end of the season, but can't see him staying over the summer. And I'm inclined to agree with you there, to be quite honest with you. He will have another year left on his contract, but I just wonder what might happen at the end of this season. I do think we'll stay up. It'll be by the skin of our teeth. I don't deny that without a shadow of a doubt. We will be playing turgid football in order to grind out results. I don't deny that either. I'm not suggesting that'll be great, but in the circumstance that we're in, I think you're absolutely right. I think he will be here till the end of the season, but let's see what happens next year. Peter, talking of screens, I thought we were looking at mine for a moment with you on it, then realised you stood in front of me. Was great to meet you. Of course. Said hello to me outside the Strawberry Pub. I hope you're well, mate. And thank you for taking time to chat to me. That was really nice of you. Really appreciated. I hope you got home well. E. Davis, this club not buying in January again is absolute. I agree with you there, in all honesty. I do. I just feel like, there are players that can be bought. We've seen other clubs do it. We've seen other clubs go out and buy other players. How many players have Nottingham Forest got now in there? 36, 37 in their squad? I thought you were only able to register 25 or something like that. And I think on Match in the Day, when I was watching it on Sunday afternoon, they said that this is the 31st player they've used this season. What? I thought you were only... I don't know how it works. But anyway, yeah, it is insane, to be quite honest with you. I agree. Patrick, in fairness to Ings, he does come with his own medical staff. Does he? Is that true? I don't think it is it? I'll say fair enough if that is true. Bezel. Soufal should be renewed. Interesting. Soufal's really playing for the shirt, isn't he? I mean, what did he say? Was it today or at the weekend? I'll die on the pitch for this club or something like that. Fantastic. 30 years old. And you know what? That he went through, there quite a lot of players went through a spell, didn't they, where they weren't playing so well, and Soufal was one of them. But boy, oh boy, does he put effort in. He may not be tops every game, but that man lives and breathes the club and fights hard with us. And I drop Deck and Bowen for Downs and Manu and see how it goes. Good, interesting. I think that sort of thing will happen in the cup game. It depends on how much we really want to beat Man United. It's going to be really interesting, that one, because Man United have got a lot of games coming up. So I wonder if we might think we can nick it against them. Drop Declan and Bowen for Downs and Manu. Bowen has not been playing well. He's only been picking up against recently. Dropping Declan for Downs, I wouldn't be worried if Declan got injured and Downs came in, but dropping him for him, I don't know. Good point, though. Sharky, Lanzini is coming to the end of his time with us. Yeah, there's an awful lot of talk. Was it his father was talking about going back to River Plate? I wonder if Lanzini really, I mean, he's got 2 years. His contract ends at the end of the season, but we do have an option of extending it for 2 years. I'm not so sure we're going to take it up, to be quite honest with you. It might be that Lanzini is on his way out, to be honest. Nil. Downs will get plenty of game time after Rice leaves. That is, I agree with that as well. Tony, one of the rule breaking City have done is the grass is too long on the pitch, and that's not. I didn't know that. to make it more difficult for other teams to play on. They can practice on it, and then when other teams come, I didn't know. Is that true? Slows the game down, I guess, for opposing teams. Howard, we bought a young Brazilian defender and an old tattooed marksman in the window. We did actually buy a young Brazilian player and an old tattooed marksman. You're talking about Ings. Well, we did get two. That is true. Back channel. I realised it as soon as I said it. Usual suspect. Calvin Phillips is overweight and injury prone. We haven't put a massive bid. Why haven't we put a massive bid in for him? It's early days. I'm sure we're going off of 50 million for him, and then he'll go somewhere else for 42 million instead. Mark, should SCAMACCA come straight back into the team when fit? Good question. I've been upset with Antonio so far this season, but in the last couple of games he's picked up. So I would suggest probably not. I would stick with Antonio. We play low possession counter attacking football. I would agree with you for the time being. Neil, I can't see Rice leaving London, which means that it'll be Chelsea or Arsenal. Maybe I just don't want him to go to Arsenal. Dizzy, good evening to you. Do you think Antonio's form returning is the kick we needed to start playing a bit better? You know what? His form is returning. During the transfer window, he was going on his podcast that he's on, etc., and talking about, there've been bids, and I'll leave that to my agent. He was clearly angling for a move. It was evident. He's upset that he's behind SCAMACCA, etc., etc. And I get that. You want to be number one, and you don't want to have your place taken in the team and so on. But he was told to knuckle down, get on with it. He's not going anywhere in the January transfer window, and he's doing just that. And good. He stopped whining, and he's now playing football. And the last couple of games he's played, I've got to give him credit where credit's due. He's been really good. And it is the kickstart we need. But there's quite a few players that have started to gain form. I think Emerson has been pretty good lately. I think Paqueta, who I've already mentioned, has started to play pretty decently. Bowen has picked up a little bit of form. He scored a couple of goals, and he needs to continue with that. Antonio as well. They've got quite a few. Sufal as well. We've got quite a few players that finally started to produce what we know they can produce, and that will stand us in good stead. But I do agree with you, Dizzy. I think with Antonio sort of looking a bit sharper, I think that bodes well as well. Vinay, get your comment up if I can. We could be in an unusual just about survive. We could be in an unusual just about survive and win the Conference League. I would not begrudge Moyes staying, but my head says a new manager. Do you know, I think that's going to happen, Vinay, and that's coming up soon, isn't it? We've got the knockouts happening with the other teams at the end of this month, at the end of February, and then we're bloody well back into European football again. Not far off. I think that could happen. I think that could actually happen. By the way, I will do a show about all the teams that are left in the Conference League, who we could face and so on in a few weeks' time. But yeah, I think that could happen. Would I not regret? You know what? You've got to give Moyes credit where credit's due if that happens. If we don't go down and we win the Conference League, that's not bad. And I just think perhaps that David Moyes, having never won a trophy in his career, he's going to look at West Ham and go, this is probably my last job. This is probably the last big job I'll have in football if I stay as a manager. And he might be thinking about that as well and thinking, I'm going for it. I'm going for the Conference League. We went for it last season, the Europa League. We could have won that competition if we hadn't faltered against Frankfurt. When I look at that final, with the greatest of respect to Frankfurt and to Rangers, it wasn't an interesting game, was it? We would have won that final if we'd have been in that. And I reckon Moyes is sniffing it. I reckon he thinks I'm close. And the Europa Conference could be the competition that he could win, not only for himself, but for us as well. Good evening, Ballon. I hope you're well. Is Doddsy as lucky as Sean Whetstone in the ballot? No, he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to be. He's got an away season ticket, the lucky bastard. Hammerhead. KEHRER has the trademark look and play style of a good holding midfielder. I agree. I think he could play quite well in that position. I do. And it's interesting, isn't it? When a defender is suffering and you put them in a different position, that all of a sudden they pick up their confidence, etc. And I think he would be quite good in that role. Nil, I wouldn't take it, GP. Too cold for me to live over there. Where are you, GP? I can't remember. Let's scroll down a bit. Good evening, Rhonda and Tony. How are you? I haven't seen you for a while. I agree he will stay in London, and big money Chelsea is spending. He may go there. but he wants to play Champions League football. He ain't going to get that at Chelsea, is he? Robert, and I reckon Chelsea are going to, with all these players that they're buying, they've got a gel. I can't see it happening. Robert, Ward-Prowse is the man if Southampton go down and we stay up. I absolutely agree. And Moyes, and that's another player that Moyes wanted. Do forgive me. I am going to scroll down a bit more just to catch up. What time is it there? Because I'm half an hour behind on the chat already. Schmiegel, I've got to find a different way of doing this. Schmiegel, if we drop Sullivan on an island in the middle of nowhere, then he won't be at the club anymore. Well, there's one answer for it, mate. That's a good one. Let's go down. Who else have we got? Peter, I thought Baptiste had gone down the wrong road, mixing with hangers-on. That's exactly what I thought as well, but seems not. It seems that he's just been injured. As Clive has confirmed, Baptiste has been injured for quite a while. And I didn't know that. And interestingly, no one knew that. No one reported on Baptiste being a long-term injury. He's a good young player. I wish him well. I really hope he gets through. Robert, West Ham women are in the semi-final of the FA League. See how far behind I am because I have mentioned that. English Yardy, how are you? I hope you're well, mate. Declan's situation is crazy. Declan's used to playing every week for us. When he makes his big club move, it's possible he won't feature at times. Absolutely, 100% agree. If that's what he wants, he knows that he will have to play bit part football. He'll play probably more often than some of the others, but you're absolutely spot on there. Usual suspects. Over the O2 on Sunday, glass of wine and a bottle of water, £21 the Robin Barsers, which is why you do not buy your drink and food there. you do it elsewhere, get absolutely hammered, and then go to the stadium. Martin, in fairness, Eddie Howe had done a fantastic job of managing Newcastle. I, for one, was expecting him to fall flat on his face. I'm the second. I thought that too. Steve Brown, sorry, mate. If KEHRER pushed up and did a basic defensive line, Wilson would have been offside. Yeah, I agree. Hang on a minute, though. Wasn't that Gerd a little bit behind as well? I could be wrong. But I genuinely don't blame KEHRER for that goal, to be honest with you. But yeah, good shout. Bezel. To GP, I truly believe it could take us in the proper direction. Wouldn't be scared to switch up and use our youngsters. You're talking about Eddie Howe, I guess. Sean, after a dodgy game against Derby, Johnson had a great game as KEHRER's replacement. Will do a job if KEHRER misses Chelsea. I absolutely agree with you there. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Good evening, John. I hope you're well. Start over, please. Absolutely not, mate. I'm already half an hour behind on the chat. Imagine how much further behind I would be. But I'll do a little roundup later on. Remind me later to do a roundup. Schmiegel, Gerd is a very good defender. Hopefully he can convince Martin Terrier from Rennes to join us, seeing as he knows him. We were we were interested in Terrier, apparently. It'd be a good shout. Absolutely. English Yardy. Management needs to chat with a Gerd. Management needs to chat with a Gerd. League One has some decent defenders. The club should definitely take a look at them. The club should definitely go get input from a Gerd. Absolutely. Aidan, morning, Stel. Morning to you, mate. I hope you're well. The worst thing about your show is I've got to go to work halfway through. At least the weather is cooled down to the high 20. You bastard. Thanks for the show. It's over. My pleasure, mate. Don't get sunburnt out there, will you, Aidan? Garino, good evening to you, mate. Should be interesting to see what happens to Man City after being charged with over 100. This is why they can't get away with it. 100 breaches of financial regulation. And apparently the grass is too long as well. Chelsea next. Well, that's what I said. Chelsea have got to be next, haven't they? John, in Ireland are saying City are to be kicked out of the league. They know F all and they hate West Ham. Well, I think they might be. I think they might. Who knows? Who knows? Let's scroll down just so I can catch up. English Yardy. Still, that's interesting what you said about KEHRER playing defensive midfield. I could see that. You know what? Look, there is a good player in there. And I know people are going, oh, yeah, PSG just sold us. They're rubbish. You don't go to the likes of PSG. You don't get picked regularly for Germany if you're a crap player, to be quite honest with you. I think there's a good player there. Maybe he should be used as a central defensive midfielder when we lose Declan. Maybe that's what he's there for. Got competition between him and Downs and others. When Declan goes, maybe we don't have to buy anyone. Yes, we know he does. But he might Excuse me. He might win the Europa Conference. Just got to bring my notes up again. Do forgive me. I'm trying to do too many things in one go. There you go. Back. Let's scroll down. Keith. If they get relegated, City, would that mean that only two? Yeah, I don't know, mate, but I will find out. I'll try and find out for you. Steve, same mistake again for Europa Cup. Didn't bring in quality fit players in January 22 and January 23. I do agree with that. It is disappointing. George, come on. Remember, if it wasn't for David Moyes, we might not still would have been playing in Europe. You know what? There is that point. And I know people are going, well, it doesn't matter about that. You know, it's what now that counts. And it is now that counts, without a shadow of a doubt. If we get relegated, that would be disastrous for us. But he has brought us European football 2 years in a row. And it could be 3 years in a row in Europe. The only team in the Championship playing in Europe. There you go. Good evening, Andy. I hope you're well. Bit late on this one. Has anyone mentioned Leeds sacking their manager? Briefly. There's my hope for them being in the bottom 3. Well, you know, okay, let's go on to that because Everton have sacked their manager. They brought in Sean Dyche. They had that new manager, you know, sort of boost. And I guess Leeds, they got rid of Bielsa. They got rid of what's his name, Ted Lasso, etc. And now, I mean, could it work again for them? It worked for them last season. They got out of relegation. Will it work again? I wonder if it will work for them. I'm not so sure, you know. I think Leeds are in trouble. I think that, you know, with us being down there as well, I think there's still a number of clubs. Everton, maybe Sean Dyche might get them now, you know, to grind out a few more decent results and pull away. Forest seem to be pulling away, but there are 1 or 2 other teams down there that I wouldn't put any money on. Bournemouth, Southampton, and it only takes another. I know Wolves also, a new manager as well. I don't know. I just wonder if there's quite a lot of teams down there that have got new managers, but they're not all doing so well. They haven't pulled completely away, have they? Sure. Not Sean. Sorry, Clive. Please do. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe, like, and bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Thank you for reminding me, Clive. Much appreciated. Good evening, Flamer. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Fo, how are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. I hope you're well. Andy, V-Night, I thought that about Leeds, but a new management coming in, leaving us behind again. It doesn't always work, though, does it? Good evening to you, Dabs. How are you, mate? You might have spoken about him already, but what do you think of Will Still Reams? I haven't spoken about him, to be quite honest with you, and I've found that, I must admit, I've completely forgotten to write anything about that. It's interesting. He's a West Ham fan. What is he? The youngest manager in club football in Europe, 31 years of age, etc. And he talks about wanting to manage West Ham United in the future. But every time they go out and play, they get fined because he hasn't got all his badges. But they're going, oh, we don't care about that. We'll still let him manage us. But interesting. I don't know much about him, to be quite honest with you. But I promise you, I will look him up a little bit more. Just haven't had time. Scarborough. How many youngsters does Eddie Howe actually sometimes use? Sometimes Anderson off the bench, and that's it. Interesting, because we all think, don't we, that it only happens at West Ham that our youngsters don't get used. But I'll ask the question again, as I asked a little while ago. Flynn Downs, Mbama, some of the other youngsters, etc. And who would you drop? Who would you drop in the current lineup? Some people have said, oh, I'll drop Declan and I'll drop Bowen, etc., to bring in Lanzini and Downs. Okay, well, what about some of the youngsters? What about Mbama? Would you drop Antonio to bring Mbama in? I'd like to see Mbama being used more. I'd like to see him get a little bit more game time, 10, 15 minutes here and there. But you're right. We're not the only club that doesn't always use our youngsters, but it feels like it is. Flamer, Moyes is not the manager we dreamed of. Whatever happened until the end of the season, he must leave. He has this negative vibe around the club. Look, I know a lot of people think that, but the players are playing for him. The vibes seem to be there on Saturday. They seem to not give up. And a lot of fans have been saying the players have stopped playing for Moyes. It certainly didn't look that way on Saturday against Newcastle. And I hope that continues. English Yardie. If we win the Conference League, we get European football. That's a good incentive. Still doesn't the format change for the Champions League next year with more teams added? It probably does, to be quite honest with you. And I think quite possibly it changes for all of the European competitions. But you may be right for the Champions. It is next year. No, you are right. It is. And I think it's a great incentive. Look, you know, we win the Conference League and we can win it. There's no reason why there are any teams there that are still there that we should be afraid of. It's a great, it'll keep us in Europe. It'll put us in the Europa League next season. Scarborough. How many youngsters does Howe actually use apart from Anderson? People have said that. Matt, all eggs in our one basket with the ECL, or still have a go with the FA Cup, even though we've got on United away. I still think we have a go. Why not? Why not? We beat them there a couple of years ago with Lanzini early goal. There's no reason why we can't go for it. Of course, it would be that Man United are now back in bloody form, isn't anyway, and we also get them away. But I say go for it. I say go for any. Doesn't matter what competition it is. We've got a squad. We've got a lot of injuries, but we've got a squad there that we can certainly have a proper go at not only the Conference League, but also the FA Cup as well. Who knows? That's the beauty of the FA Cup. You don't know what will come of it. Jonathan, is this thing with City on purpose to get kicked out so they can officially create a Super League? No, it's not on purpose. They fucked up. Dabs, Moyes said after the Newcastle game he would have had some youth on the bench, but they played the night before, and they did. They played against Monaco in the under-21s game. So there you go. Moyes, but I guess what people are seeing is it's one thing having the youth. Mbama, was it Mbama that played the night before, or was it the under-21s? Well, Mbama played, scored a brace for the under-18s, and I think that might have been the night before as well. Martin, I think Everton will be a different proposition to play against now that Dyche is in. I think Leeds are in trouble, though. I'd be inclined to agree with you there. Garino, there's always one team that slip into the relegation and one or two who start to pick up. I think Wolves and Everton will be okay. Not sure about Leeds. Depends on who they appoint. Good shout. I agree. I'm getting there so I can go to the next part of my show. Good evening, Chris. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Was up there on Saturday. What a decent weekend and a great point. Brilliant night out, wasn't it? Did you go to Big Market? Fuck me, it was busy there, wasn't it? I'm too old. Halfway through my curry, I almost started falling asleep. But mind you, I had been drinking rum and beer all day. Rupert, I hope you're well, mate. No negative thoughts here. Rupert, my word, no negative thoughts. That's not like you in the bloody chat, mate. All positives from me. In Moyes we trust. Hope Wiggy didn't keep you awake last night. So he did. Mind you, I was so tired, I actually couldn't hear him snoring. Our friend Wiggy, the man with the shirts, snores like a fucking drunken rhinoceros. Anyway, Andy, whilst I was pleased with the draw and the performance on Saturday, but we need wins, and Moyes held us back on Saturday and took the draw from start of second half. I disagree because he brought on, players, he brought Downs on, etc. quite late in the game. I disagree. I think we were doing well, but you get to a point where you go, like I said earlier on in the show, they had a couple of chances late on. Callum Wilson, the tackle from Agerd, and then the header near the end of the game. They had a few chances. I kind of get why Moyes. I would have been really unhappy if we walked away with nothing. And it's not that I agree with you. Draws are all right, but we do need wins. And I don't know, maybe if we had a couple more strikers available to us, apart from Mings, etc., maybe we might have gone for it a bit more. But I was pleased to walk away with a point, to be honest. Fo, it's the season after the European competitions changed their structures. Season after the European competitions. I didn't get that. It's the season after European competitions changed their structures. Which season? This season. Garino, have a go in the FA Cup. I agree. ECL is also important as we need momentum. Absolutely agree with you on both things. Sharky, whoa, I've got a little bit of news about that. I hope King Arthur is returning. Will he ain't? Christophe, good evening to you. Diganis or Lagala. Maybe it was the Prosecco on the way up that you always have that gave us a bit of luck. Mate, we were pretty pissed. Yes, and we do drink Prosecco on the way up. We celebrate going up, just in case we lose. Celebrate before you lose. 40. The news about Deck is driving me crazy. It's everywhere. Said this earlier, mate. It's absolutely ridiculous. They really have nothing else to talk about. Matt, in my opinion, would like the Super Cup to include the Cup, ECL Cup winners. Good point. UL, ECL play each other to play the Champions League winners for the Super Cup. What a nice thought. That's not how it works, is it? Yeah. Scarborough. Why are people so keen to push youngsters? Look throughout the whole of the Premier League, and there aren't many teams that play with more than one homegrown youngster that's not established, and that is a good point. James, it seems like only yesterday that we were praising Chelsea's model of building up the youth, loaning out or flogging. So now that we're doing similar, we're slagging ourselves off. Good point. That's a really good point. Matt, keep Arthur and Vlasic next season or keep? I'll get to that in a minute. Richard, has anyone counted how many times says his favourite phrase? I do a lot of so I'm trying to balance it out. Right, let's go to the next part of the show. I've forgotten what part of the show I'm on, to be quite honest with you. No, I know. Right, I said I've got a bit of news about Vlasic and King Arthur. Now, if you look on the official West Ham website, you'll notice a couple of players missing. And first off, I was looking at it and I thought, what's going on here? Here's our defenders. No Masuaku. And then I looked at our midfielders and our attackers and no Vlasic. Now, I know what you're all going to say. Well, of course they're not there because they're out on loan. Not so. Look in the bottom corner there. COVENTRY, he's out on loan. This is only until recently both players have been taken off our official website. Is there anything going on? Now, look, I know, or well, not I know, we know that Vlasic probably won't want to come back to West Ham United. He's happy in Torino. Torino are happy with him. There was all this speculation, and I kept telling you it won't happen. There was all this speculation in the January transfer window that Vlasic was going to be made permanent at Torino. And the reason why he wasn't made permanent is because we're currently subsidizing a portion of his salary every week. Now, when Torino sign him on a permanent basis, they'll have to pay him the whole salary. We stopped subsidizing it. And that's why they didn't sign him on a permanent in January. But it's very, very likely he will be signed in the summer to Torino. Arthur, slightly different proposition. Now, there was an awful lot of talk that King Arthur was going to come back. Apparently, Besiktas, or whatever you call them, weren't happy with Arthur. The only reason why they weren't happy with him is because he picked up an injury, a pretty serious one. Thankfully, he didn't miss that many games, but he's back playing for them again. I'm not so sure that the Turkish club are going to want to keep him at the end of the season. I don't know if they'll make his contract permanent, but it's very likely Arthur won't come back to West Ham. So is that why they've been taken off the official West Ham website? I don't think it is, but it's quite interesting that normally when you got a player out on loan, that player is still earmarked. If you look at COVENTRY, like I said in the bottom left-hand corner, that any player that's out on loan will still be on the official West Ham website, but they're both gone. So I don't think either of them will be coming back at the end of the season, to be honest. But it's a little bit weird that they've been taken off our official website. So in answer to your question, Matt, keep Arthur and Vlasic next season? No, to be quite honest with you. I think Emerson has been doing pretty well, to be honest. And I stupidly called him the Italian Arthur a few weeks ago, but he's actually beginning to deliver. And Vlasic, no, I don't think he'll want to come back, to be quite honest with you. And given that Torino have got an option to buy for something like £13 million, then that's an absolute snip for them. So let's move on and let's talk about Arthur. Now, he was playing back in action again at the weekend, and he was playing in the game against, I do have it written down. It's somewhere. Hang on. Yeah, there it is. He played against Sivasspor in a 1-0 defeat against Sivasspor. He was booked in the game, so he now misses the next game because he's accumulated 5 yellow cards, and he'll miss the next game. And he was also subbed on the 64th minute, so it wasn't the best of weekends for King Arthur. And then Nikola Vlasic, interestingly, started off on the bench for Torino. And he came on after they were winning 1-0 in the 49th minute, and he came on for the goal scorer, Jan Karamo, in the 55th minute because of an injury. So, like I say, I think I think neither of them will come back to West Ham at the end of the season, to be honest. I don't think we'll probably miss them much either. COVENTRY, as we know, is now out on loan to struggling Championship side Rotherham United. He made his debut against them in the game against Sheffield United, who are second in the league, and he helped to gain a valuable point for Rotherham. They're languishing a bit far down the league for their liking. So well done to you, COVENTRY. Now, will he come back next season? I don't know, you know. I know we've extended his contract by another year, the option that we had on it. Let's see how he does. I like Connor Coventry. Is he good enough, though, for Premier League football? I don't know. There was a time when I thought he would absolutely 100% be good enough. And now I'm not so sure. I actually do think Flynn Downs is probably a better player than him. Jacob KNIGHTBRIDGE. Now, I don't know how many goalies we've got. We've got a whole host of them, and most of them are out on loan. Jacob KNIGHTBRIDGE is one of them. He's out on loan for Harrow Borough. He helped get them a vital 1-0 win over Beaconsfield Town at the weekend. It was their first win since the middle of December when they won a game in the FA Trophy. In the FA Trophy Cup. They sit just outside the relegation zone, Harrow Borough. So well done to him. Thierry Nevers, who's out on loan at Bradford City. He was a sub on the 75th minute for Bradford in their 1-1 draw against Mansfield Town. He's been slowly brought into the team. He had 9 minutes and 1 minute and 5 minutes here and there, and he's getting a bit more game time at his new club, Bradford. He's out on loan until the end of this season. Right. I'm going to talk about injuries, and we do have quite a number of injured players. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Thilo Kehrer wasn't brought off at halftime because of a tactical switch or anything like that. He was brought off because he felt his hamstring at the end of the first half. Now, a lot of fans, I guess, will be rejoicing. A lot of fans don't like Kehrer. We've talked about him a little bit, about maybe playing as a central holding midfielder. I think he'd be quite good at that, to be quite honest with you. We don't know whether he's going to be ready for or back for the game against Chelsea. It seems quite likely that he won't be. But as others have suggested, Ben Johnson came in, and I think he actually did pretty well in the game against. Excuse me a minute, people. I think he did really well in the second half against. Sorry about that. My screen keeps going off. I think he did really well in the second half against Newcastle. I think he's a bit more of a solid defender than Kehrer is. But I like Kehrer. I think Kehrer will come good. But yeah, he might be missing for the game against Chelsea at the weekend. There was a doubt about Jarrod Bowen. Apparently, he was struggling for the last 15 to 20 minutes of the game against Newcastle. I must be honest, I didn't see him struggling, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he was, but I didn't see him. Apparently, he was limping a little bit and so on. So let's talk about maybe him being injured. Danny Ings, we know he came on, and apparently he was clutching his knee soon after he came on. He came on as a sub for Antonio. There was yet again some concern that he maybe had the same injury as he did against Everton, where we got away with it because he was cup tied anyway to play against Derby. But we were waiting on news for him as well. However, if you look at the website today, the West Ham website, Bowen was in training in the new training kits that they were advertising. So he doesn't look like he's going to be missing any game time, which is good news. And Danny Ings was also in training. So the myth that they're both out injured is just that, a little bit of a myth. There were quite a couple of other players, a lot of the young players that were training with the West Ham squad today. Levi Lang, a central defender, left-sided player Ollie Scarles, midfielders Freddie Potts and Keenan Lepiafor-San, as well as attacking players Kamari Swire and Divine Mbama, all training with the first team this week as well. Kurt Zouma, now we've heard that, well, we know that he's torn his thigh muscle. Now, look, it's quite interesting. If you torn your thigh muscle, it could be quite serious. But there's a suggestion that he's only going to be, there was an initial suggestion that it wasn't that bad and it might be a grade 1 strain. If it's a grade 1 strain, it's a couple of weeks out and that's no problem. However, if you tear something, even slightly, it's quite likely to be a grade 2 strain. And it could be possible that he might be out until March. He's missed quite a number of games already this season, and missing all the games against Spurs, against Chelsea, against Forest, etc., and a few others would be quite serious for us. Look, it's not good having all these injuries. There's also Areola. Someone suggested earlier, is he putting it on or is he injured? He pulled a minor hamstring injury. He might be out for the Chelsea game as well. And finally, Gianluca Scamacca. He had his final injection for the PRP injection, which is platelet rich plasma therapy. He had the last injection on Wednesday. And what happens with that injection is a couple of days after, you know, the knee goes stiff, etc. You can't move. Then it takes you a couple of weeks to get over it. So I don't think he'll be back for the Chelsea game. He might just be back for the Spurs game, but almost definitely back for the Nottingham Forest game. And then lastly, of course, is Maxwell Cornet. Returned to Rush Green last Monday, sent straight back to France a few days later. David Moyes gave mixed messages about, well, he's gone back, he's 70% fit, you know, and he'll be back soon, etc. Well, if it's taken him 4 months to get 70% fit, it could be another month before he's back. We really don't know. Look, he's been having training, gym training, and apparently he is no longer feeling the pain in his calf, which is really, really good news. It's frustrating for fans. I know a lot of fans go, my God, what a waste of money, etc. Players don't get injured on purpose. Imagine how the player himself must be feeling. I think if we were patient with Nigel Gerd for the first 6 months of this season, we can be patient for Cornet because he could come back at a crucial time and help us push on in the final few months of the season. Now, what will happen if all those players that I mentioned were injured? They're on the screen on your right. A Gerd out, ZOUMA out, etc., etc. What would happen if they all got injured? Excuse me a second, people. Technical faux pas tonight. They're all happening at the same time. What would happen if all those players were injured? Gerd, AREOLA, ZOUMA, KEHRER, Cornet, BOWEN, Ings, SCAMACCA. What sort of team would we be able to put out? And I think if they were all injured, then you'd still have a pretty decent team. Mentioned Ben Johnson in the back three. And then you've got your wing backs, etc., with Paqueta and Declan in the middle. And then Fornals will come in. Forgotten man this season. Fornals will come in, or even maybe Lanzini. And then Ben Rama, or you could have Fornals and Lanzini alongside Antonio up front. But we know, as I've just mentioned, that it looks like Bowen and Ings are going to be okay. So that's probably the lineup. There'll probably be one change for the game against Chelsea at the weekend, which will be Ben Johnson for Thilo Kehrer. I think the rest of the team will probably stay the same. There'll be a question mark maybe over Ben Rama because he didn't play that well. But like I said earlier in the show, you might not play well one game, but, you know, he hasn't had bad games throughout the season. He's been a little bit hit and miss, more hit to me than miss, to be quite honest with you. But I think that's probably going to be the lineup on Saturday. There'll probably be one change, and that'll be in defence with Ben Johnson coming in for Thilo Kehrer. So even though we've got quite a lot of injuries that we're having to deal with, these are the ones that we definitely know about. AREOLA, ZOUMA, KEHRER, Cornet and SCAMACCA. They doesn't look like they'll be back for the game against Chelsea at the weekend, but I still think there'll be a good side being put out nonetheless. And I think that team will be quite decent against Chelsea, to be quite honest with you, and I'm confident about it. Right, that's it. Let me go into the final part of your chats. Did I do that one? Yeah, I did that one. Andy. In normal circumstances, Christoph, I agree, but these ain't normal circumstances. 5 points in 27. We need more. What did Christoph say? If I can find your comment. Got to respect the point. Yeah, I agree. We do. And I get what you're saying, Andy. You know, we do need more. We do need to pick up some wins. I've said that we need 6 more wins. And I think we've got 6 more wins in us, to be quite honest with you. I said six wins and 3 draws will probably see us enough to stay in this league. We've got 2 draws and a win so far, so let's see how we get on. Matt, 40. Never know, mate. Could do wonders for us on the left, as he didn't get a good chance last year. 40. Why are we selling Vlasic when he's in form? Is he? He got dropped to the bench on Saturday at the weekend. John, okay, so you explained the Prosecco on the train. Now tell us why you had a banana too. That's Wiggy. Nothing to do with me. Good evening, Ryan. I hope you're well, mate. You need to look in the West Ham Hall of Fame to find King Arthur. You won't find him there. Dabs. Gerd is a true leader, gets along with everyone and leads by example. Absolutely. Clive, we need a Gerd. We need Arthur for Chelsea. No, we don't. Garino, Stell had one too many rums and beers up in tune. Mate, I did. Far too many, to be honest with you. Prize King, good evening to you. If we get Mason Mount, Rice might stay. You laugh, but that might not be a bad shout, to be honest with you. Matt, would you bring Oxford back to the club? He seems to do well in Germany. He's taken his time, and he was one player that went a little bit wayward with the company that he kept, apparently. He's doing very well, but he is playing for a team that's quite sort of low in that league. But having said that, yeah, he's managed to get himself together and he's playing well. Yeah, I'd have Reece Oxford back. I always rated him, but it was his attitude that was the problem. Christopher, would Masuaku Vlasic do a job for us in the Championship? Oh, neither of them would want to come there, to be quite honest with you. Garino, Masuaku to come back with silver beard in honor of Stell. Let's scroll down. Mr. McLaren, how are you? Is it really your birthday today? If it is, happy birthday, mate. And we'll have a beer on Saturday. Matt, I still don't understand why we sold Cullen. Probably one of the best midfielders to come through the academy. It's interesting. I always thought Coventry was better than Cullen. And now Cullen is proving me wrong. You know, he's playing exceptionally well for Burnley, etc. Yeah, he's a decent player. Let's see what he does, though, in the Premier League and if he can manage it there. Matt, still don't understand why we sold up. Done that one. Peter, be interesting to see how Cullen does in the Premier. There you go. Cullen wasn't good enough, Peter said. I do need it. Honestly, mate, I'm not kidding. I've had everything go. I've had the lights go out. I've had the screen going on and off. And I realized it was unplugged as well. So that would have just gone click. It is difficult. It's not. And then trying to read your comments, trying to put all the posts up and etc. Anyway, I won't complain. I love it. Matt, Peter agreed to disagree. I like him. Never got a chance, in my opinion. Let's scroll down. Steve. Bowen got stamped on top of his foot. Oh, I didn't know that. There you go. That's why he was limping. So otherwise, he's fine. Cullen for Burnley in the Premier League. He won't do wonders, but if I'm a better squad player, may do. Man, like I said, I thought Connor Coventry was better, but Coventry can't get in the West Ham team. Andy, player stamped on his foot. Yep, thank you. I didn't know that. Didn't see that. Ings struggling with his knee. That's a good one. I know, mate, but apparently he was. There you go. Richard, West Ham favourite film, No Country for Old Men. We do have a lot of oldies in the team. We really do. Peter, Suter would have been perfect. He would have been, but we didn't go for him. Let's see what happens. We do need to bring in a couple of. God, we still need more defenders in at the end of this season. Isn't it weird? Howard, 3-0 Wolves. Hilarious. It was hilarious, especially with Dawson scoring as well. Vinay, Moyes also get an injection to make him play more positive football. It's partially working. Steve, Cornet is broken. Well, seems to be. Andy, Areola has had enough of being on the bench still. No, mate. It's not true, Andy. And you know, you can't say that's the case. You know, I think, we've got a lot of games coming up. We've got Europe coming up. We've got the FA Cup coming up as well. And I know what you're going to say. Well, he didn't play in the last game in the FA Cup. He was injured, got a minor injury. We've got Europe coming up. Look who we had on the bench now that we've sold Randolph. Goalies. We had 2 young goalies on the bench. You know, Areola's got an important role to play in the squad for the end of this season. Cornet is officially the new Wilshere. Yeah, unfortunately, it does seem to be the case. English Yardie. Josh Cullen will be playing Premier League football next season. Kudos to him. He has proved himself. To be honest, players need an opportunity to play consistently. I've seen him play for Burnley, similar to Noble. Great for him. I want to see him do the same for Burnley in the Premier League, though. See how he gets on. Matt, and if he does, then fair play to him. Matt, but you're absolutely right. You know, these players need game time in order to prove what they're capable of doing. I agree with you. Matt, Cornet and SCAMACCA, 100% fit, can be dangerous. With the likes of Benny, Bowen, Paqueta around them, I absolutely agree. Definitely. Yes, that's very true. Wiltshire knew the difference between a hot point and a Bosch tumble dryer. I don't know what you're all talking about. I am missing a few comments, so I'm sure there's something going on there. English Yardie, Ballon Dawson, true. He has taken his opportunity for sure. Cullen's style is like looking like Noble. Interesting. I haven't seen him play, so I'll take your word for it. Keith, 138 watching and just 28 likes. Come on, you Lions. do hit the like and subscribe button. I've got 205 watching, so I hope it's gone up since then. But look, people, yeah, I'm shit at doing this. Please hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Peter, did you answer about having a beer at the week? Did you answer having a beer at the week? Like, this bear shit in the woods. Matt, what's more likely? Ince to score 5 goals or Antonio to get 10? Ings to score 5, I guess. Ralph, just joined in. What's happening with the Luciano Brazilian geezer? Luciano Luzal. I thought I was bad at pronouncing names. In the under-21s, any reports? He hasn't, he's doing all right. He's in the under-21s. He's getting regular game time. But that's about as much as I can tell you, to be quite honest with you. Nothing more to say. I agree, Areola should be number 1. Schmiegel. We need another defender with pace like a Gerd. I recommend Maxime Lacroix. He from Wolfsburg. Didn't he just recently go to Wolfsburg? Because there was talk about us being interested in him. I think not this summer, but the summer before. Not this summer. Last summer. Summer before that. Decent player. Andy. Matt with Ings. Injury record for us so far. Will he make 5 sub appearances this season? He will. He will. Just about. What else have we got here? Good evening to you, Jerry. A lot of people coming in really late. Where's Jerry gone? I saw you a minute ago. I'm sure you were there. Well, maybe I wasn't. There you are. Jerry. Good evening to you, mate. Sorry a bit late. Where are we with Moyes? He's still here. And now we're in the happy hour. Brazilian bloke isn't nuts yet. Is the Pope Catholic? I knew you'd say that. Right. Let me just recap, because I promised I will do. Let me just recap what I've said throughout the whole show. So, what did we started? I had a right old rant, didn't I, about, let's get to him. I had a real rant about Declan Rice. You know, like I said several times before, whether there's a transfer window or not, you're always going to hear a Declan Rice transfer story. He's going to Arsenal. He's going to Chelsea. He's going here, there, and everywhere. He's worth 70 million, 65 million, 80 million, 100 million, 120 million. Good grief. And like I said, if Enzo Fernandez has just gone to Chelsea for 105 million and David Moyes has said you've got to break the British record transfer fee, he's definitely going for much more than that. And that's what we're going to hold out for. Let's see if teams come running and shelling out their money. The women's team got a point against Arsenal. The women's team are in the semi-final of the Cup, Continental League Cup. So do go and support them. £8, not bad. Okoflex was in action against Monaco. We played Monaco, the under-21s last week. Just got narrowly beaten. And Jamal Baptiste was back in that game after a long injury. So well done to him. The under-18s just keep marching on. 5th round of the FA Youth Cup. They smashed Stoke 4-1. Well done to them. I think there's a resilience back with West Ham. I said it earlier when I was reviewing the game against Newcastle. Like I said, you know, the past couple of seasons, when we've gone a goal down, we always managed to pull ourselves back, get ourselves organised. There hasn't been much of that in the first half of this season, but certainly in the game against Newcastle, it felt that we're back to that sort of level. KEHRER was wrongly blamed for the goal against us. I think it was more an Ogbonna thing. Paqueta, I think, is a class act. He's getting better and better as the games go by. And Gerd is an absolutely fantastic defender. And I think now we've got 2 world-class players, possibly 3. Paqueta, Gerd, and Declan Rice. No reason why Declan Rice should leave at the end of this season. And look at that superb challenge. Bobby Moore-esque. And then I asked a question. Arthur Masuaku, is he gone? He's no longer on the official website, but neither is Vlasic. Can't find them anywhere. And like I said, before you say it, because they're out on loan, they won't be on there. Well, they are. Connor Coventry's still there, and other players who are out on loan are still there in the under-21s as well. Arthur played, but got defeated at the weekend. Vlasic played. He was only a second half sub. Connor Coventry made his debut for Rotherham. Well done to him. And I really do hope he does well, to be honest. Knightbridge, one of the many goalies that we got out on loan, got a vital 3 points for Harrow Borough. Thierry Nevers came on as in the last 15 minutes of his game against Bradford City. And then injuries. KEHRER looks like he's got a hamstring injury. Looks like he's going to will miss the game against Chelsea at the weekend. BOWEN looked like he might have been in trouble. Apparently, well, thank you for telling me. He got his foot stamped on. And Ings apparently was nursing his knee at the end of the game against against Newcastle. But we saw BOWEN in training, so he's fine. And we saw Ings in training, so he's fine as well. Kurt ZOUMA, with the tear that he's got, it looks like it could be a grade 2 thigh strain. And it looks like he could possibly be out for the rest of February. Possibly. Areola, minor hamstring. Don't believe it. Andy Armit, nothing to do with him feigning injury. He'll be back very soon. SCAMACCA had his third injection in his knee last Wednesday. 2 days after that, you get the knee gets sore and quite stiff, and then it takes roughly 2 weeks to recover. So he may not be back until the Spurs game. I'd like to see him back for the Chelsea game, but it doesn't look likely. Cornet, another false dawn. He was back last Monday at Rush Green, and now he's back in France rehabilitating again. That's it. Thank you all for watching. A few more comments before I leave you. Let's go. Andy. Fallout from Dawes leaving, was pulled out of our game against Wolves versus Wolves. They beat us. He plays against Liverpool, scores, and they win. 6 points gained over us. Should have kept into. We couldn't. There was no way. You know, he was promised a move. And I think I said this actually in the summertime. He wanted to leave in the summer. I think the agreement was stay with us until the winter transfer window, and we'll let you leave then. We had to keep our word, and he was not playing. You know, not that he was refusing to play, but he was not playing for West Ham. His head was not in the right place. So even if we wanted, I agree with you. You know, I would have liked to have kept him, but it didn't look likely. Trudge. It will take time to train the flair out of our Brazilian defender. Bo, West Ham summer shopping list. New centre back agreed. New right back agreed. New attacking midfielder. Probably not. If Moyes remains manager beyond the summer transfer window, I suspect he'll sign a new centre back only. I think we need. I don't know about right. Yeah, maybe a right back. Definitely another centre back. Definitely a left back, without a shadow of a doubt. And I actually would go in for another striker. Attacking midfielder? Probably not. Sharky. I saw him playing against Man United. I was quite impressed. He can put a tackle in and has pace. Who? I've spoken about so many people. I've lost count who it is. Let's scroll down. Matt, has Paqueta made more of an impact so far us than Anderson's first season? Good question. No, he hasn't. Anderson was on fire in the first season for us. You're not going to Chelsea? Oh, mate, I thought you were. Schmiegel, did you hear that Enzo Fernandez is a big fan of Rice? He mentioned him recently. Yes, I did read about that. Just trying to sort of butter him up to go and play with him next season. Eamon, it's been reported we want 120 million plus add-ons according to Talkshite. They also said Man United bid 100 million up. Did that one earlier, mate. And some people think it's true that they did bid. Apparently, they put an inquiry and we said 100 million. I doubt that. I think they said, do you want 100 million? And we told them to piss off. Pete. Agurd should have manned Mark Wilson from the start. Well, yeah, good shout. Good shout with that one. Andy. Matt, I think they're different players. Paqueta puts in a shift every game. Anderson wanted to do was shift out of the way, work shy for us. But he did score something like, was it 10 goals in the first season for us, to be quite honest with you. Schmiegel. I'm still on the fence with KEHRER. I think he's clumsy and dangerous. Every time he goes into a tackle, it looks like he's going to break their legs. Well, no, don't wish that on anyone. Right. Am I doing a preview of the Chelsea show? I don't normally do previews, but I do have something in mind, and it includes Dodsey as well. So do look out for something maybe on the Friday. James Stell, that great tackle by Agurd reminds me so much of his tackle at Ibrox, and he went down shortly after. How did he look after that? He looked all right. He did go down on his knees, but then he got up again. Thank God. And Mice Collective. Moyes will stick with Slothwell, and has been a great left back for us. Well, no, he won't, because he's not been playing him. He won't go to Chelsea. I thought you weren't going to Chelsea. I got you. Johnny Rick, cheers for the injury summary. No problem at all. My KEHRER flatters to deceive, but I think he'll come good. That's it. I'm shutting up now. It's been an hour and 39 minutes. Really much appreciated for watching. Thank you for all your comments, etc. Really appreciate that too. Have a wonderful week. Let's look forward to Chelsea. I'll do a couple of other shows. I might do a Friday late night, maybe. So look out for that. And I might do some kind of preview for Chelsea as well. So look out for that as well. And there might be one or two other pre-recorded shows in the week. So if you haven't subscribed yet, then you ought to. Otherwise, won't know when I'm next on. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all very, very soon.